Protection from who?
From themselves.
This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Trailer into Reaction. What I'm looking at today is the red band trailer for Watchmen Chapter 1. And I don't think you can talk about the Watchmen without talking about Alan Moore, who is a bit of a curmudgeon. And to be honest, I don't understand it. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a very valid reason for how he is, but I am saying I don't understand it. If only because he's the creator of so many influential titles. V for Vendetta, From Hell, and there's so many others. And he wants nothing to do with them being developed into feature films. He literally despises it, it seems to me. And as I said, I don't quite understand why. Though, when you take into account that most of them have not been very good movies. For instance, if you look at Zach Snyder's Watchmen, which wasn't terrible, but it also didn't understand the source material. For instance, Rorschach was not a character to be admired. He was not cool. He was falling apart mentally. He was, in some ways, quite pathetic. And what bothers me about Zack Snyder's interpretation of most things is that his understanding tends to be very surface level, which is to say, if there's a lot of violence or whatever, he really enjoys it. But conversely, those deeper levels of meaning are beyond him. He never even looks there. So his adaptations tend to come off rather shallow, which is the case with his interpretation of Watchmen. It looks great. It's not a very good movie though, because it doesn't understand the material. So from that perspective, I can perhaps understand why Alan Moore is so frustrated. To see people adapt his work and not quite understand what he's trying to say again and again and again, I imagine is a really frustrating experience for him. Though what also confuses me is that why isn't he more involved with the adaptations of his work? It could be a contractual issue in a sense that he could have done his DC work, Watchmen, as a journeyman, which is to say he has no rights over that work. Once it's written, it's out of his hands entirely. So maybe that aspect makes him bitter, because I've never heard of any of the projects that were adapted from his work being worked on by him. It's always he writes it and some other writers come in and adapt it. Why don't they just let Alan Moore adapt the screenplays of movies based upon his ideas? It's not unusual. It happens all the time. Though as far as I'm aware, it has never happened in the case of Alan Moore, which would probably piss me off a little bit too. In any case, let's look at the official red band trailer for Watchmen Chapter 1.
October 13th, 1985. On Friday night, a comedian died in New York. Somebody knows why. These days, nobody's safe.
The comedian is dead? Why?
You're supposed to be the world's smartest man, Fight. Ian was active for 40 years. Men make a lot of enemies in that time.
Blake was a monster.
We're society's only protection.
Protection from who?
From themselves.
Who killed Edward Blake? No.
Maybe this was a political killing.
Or maybe someone's picking off costumed heroes.
I thought I knew how the world was, but then I found out about this gag. I never should have gotten involved.
Doesn't fit. Waiting for a flash of enlightenment.
A world grows up around me, but am I shaping it?
I want to know who's behind this!
It's a joke, but I don't get it!
Every day, the future looks
a little bit darker. But the past keeps getting brighter all the time.
It is too late. Always has been. Always will be.
Who's behind this?
I don't know!
Not convincing.
I don't know!
There is good and there is evil, and evil must be punished. Even in the face of Armageddon. I shall not compromise on this.
Well, that was the official Red Band trailer for Watchmen Chapter 1. And is it just me, or does a lot of what Warner Brothers and DC seem to be doing are apologizing for Zach Snyder's movie? If only because this looks like a very comic accurate depiction of the Watchmen, which Zack Snyder's movie was in some ways and wasn't in others, namely in its lack of depth and understanding the characters. So this is kind of confusing. It looks really good visually speaking. The animation is computer graphics, but it looks like it's done in a cartoon fashion, which I appreciate. Though it's strange. Why do we need this? So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Trailer into Reaction. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.